Welcome in, everybody, to the DGD Podcast. We are back, rolling solo tonight, and we are here talking all things Georgia. Cotton Bowl be damned. We are live after the Cotton Bowl for those on YouTube watching, but it is all Georgia tonight. And we're going to be talking about really everything from the transfer portal, the draft declarations, and just review that and what it means for Georgia moving ahead into 2025, right? First things first, show's brought to you by our friends over at Alumni Hall. Make sure to get yourself geared up with our friends over at Alumni Hall. You can see it right here if you're watching. Gifts for the ultimate Georgia fan, hoodies, bags, everything is licensed. If you go online, DGDpodcast.com/alumni hall. Go there, shop. 8% will go to the Classic City Collective, or you could go in stores and 10% off your order for mentioning the DGD podcast at checkout. So thank you, Alumni Hall, for sponsoring the show into the new year 2025. Make sure if you're watching, like, subscribe, everything. All right. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, rate, review, do us the good stuff. It's free, and it helps the show more than you know. Now, first things first, let's go ahead and get started. The meat and potatoes. Let's talk about these transfer portal. I want to talk about the transfer portal. I want to talk about the departures first, just to get it out of the way, rip the Band-Aid off. Talk about the departures. Then we're going to come back, and we're going to talk about the additions to replenish that, right? So we're going to do that first. So over on patreon.com/DGD podcast, I was doing a transfer portal draft declaration thread, basically, where we keep up with everybody. Right? Everybody comes back. Everybody's leaving. We've got there. So let's start with this. Transfer portal departures. I'm just going to read a list off. And if they've committed somewhere, they've committed somewhere. If they have not, you'll know. First things first, Sam Mpimba, edge rusher, right? He's committed to A&M. Justin Rhett, committed to Nebraska. Troy Bowles, committed to Michigan. Big Jaw, Southern Cal. Ra Thomas, Jake Pope, committed to UNLV. Receiver Michael Jackson III. Julian Humphrey, that's an A&M commit. Anthony Evans, Jaden Rashada, Colin Gill, David Daniel Sisavant, committed to Troy. And then I think the two biggest ones here, edge Damon Wilson and quarterback Carson Beck, committed to Miami. Didn't take long for that, though. Did not take long to commit to Miami. It did not, I think within 24 hours of him actually going into the portal, he was there. Let's be honest. If you've listened to this show for however long, you know how we are. It makes too much sense for him not to go to Miami. Now, to be fair, thought he was going to the draft. Just did. He decides not to, and he goes and commits to Miami. They got a girlfriend down there. Right? And reports were servicing, 1 year, $4 million. If you're getting $4 million, come play there. Hell, second-round quarterbacks ain't getting close to that. So if I'm looking at it, sign me up. Just sign me up. That's easy money. Easy money. Why not? Nonetheless, I'm not going to take and sit there and bash the kid. Not going to do that. Wish him the best. But if we play Miami, I can't pull for you. Sorry, just can't do it. Just can't do it. And I'm sure Keon and other folks would probably be agreeing with me here, or they might have some different feelings. But they're not here right now. So that's how I feel. I just don't know as well with Carson and Miami, the fit. I think it makes sense. I just don't know if their weapons are going to be that. I just don't know. Talking about wanting to go win a national championship, wanting to go win a Heisman. Can he? Maybe. But Miami's got more problems than just replacing a quarterback. I get they had to replace Cam Ward. I get that. And their starting quarterback in the bowl game was not going to cut it. So it makes sense. Still kind of think he overpaid, but who am I to judge? $4 million is $4 million. I ain't got it. So, I mean, either way, Carson Beck goes to Miami, obviously solidifying the deal that you're looking at Gunner and Ryan Puglisi and see what happens there. I mean, maybe just, maybe a quarterback in the portal. I don't know if there's the right one that comes out. Who knows? I can see Georgia being competitive depending on how they feel about it. But either way. So you got all these departures. And then let's do the draft declarations. So you've got Warren Brinson, Nazir Stackhouse, Arian Smith, Tate Ratledge, Jalen Walker, Michael Williams, Malachi Starks, Smile Munden, Dylan Fairchild, Jared Wilson, Xavier Truss, Tyrion Ingram Dawkins, Dom Lovett, and Ben Urasic. So if you're counting, that's well over 18. I'd say that's over 15 players that's left this roster, almost 20. I don't have the specific count. There's a lot. There's a lot. I want to ask the comments for the viewers. Which one surprised you the most? Which departure surprised you the most? Just which player? Just comment it below. Which one? While we continue to talk about it. When you look at the departures there, when you see that, you're losing a lot of D-line, right? We knew that. You're losing a lot on the defense, and you're losing a few on the offensive line. Same things that we sat there and looked at, and we kind of knew what was coming up. We kind of just felt that it was going to be that way. You're going to be young on the offensive line, right? You will. If I'm not mistaken, Henry Dion was asking about, are we going to talk about playing some new blood on that offensive line? Absolutely. So you still got it, Monroe Freely. Ernest Green never made a call on coming back or going pro. Have to assume that he comes back. So deal with those two. And then you've just got a bunch of freaks, man. Daniel Calhoun. At center, you got Drew Bobo. Think about this. Drew Bobo could be your starting center next year. And I, for one, I'm not really too opposed to it, in all seriousness. I'm really not. I think if you watch his tape, his effort and just overall played good. So I'm not mad at it. But then you look, I said, Calhoun, Ja Jackson, right, 6'10", Behemoth, right, Michael Unai. All these different guys. There's so many guys coming in and fighting for spots along that offensive line. They're young. It's going to be new blood. But could it be better, considering that was a very weak point for the Georgia team this year? Possibly. It makes sense for me to think so. Maybe it helps. I don't know. I'm not going to sit there and call for somebody to lose their job and their livelihood. But part of me wonders if Searles was a problem for it too. It makes you start to question. I can understand people that do question it and understand why they're questioning it. How about that? But nonetheless, though, offensive line, you're replacing a lot of talent and a lot of starts up front. And I'm not saying you can't replace them with better, but that experience can pay off. It really can. But here, so Georgia in the portal, we'll do this. So to replace all of those guys in the portal, we sit there, we talk about what's going away, right? Some receivers, two quarterbacks. You sit there, you see a lot of subtraction in this. You see a lot of moving pieces, moving out. To which you've got some players returning. I think some key players too. I think some key players coming back. They make their announcement. Christian Miller, Trevor Etienne, Dylan Bell, Brett Thorson. Hey, the Dawgs' favorite punter is coming back. Cash Jones and Dalen Everett. Dalen Everett just announced Friday, about midday or so, that he was coming back. Big list. By big, I'm talking impactful. I'm not necessarily saying it's a lot of people coming back. I am saying those are some impactful players. I think Krista Miller has a chance to be the guy along that defensive line this year in 2025. We know Trevor Etienne, what he can do. We know what he can do. There shouldn't be a reason for that to change. You sit there, Dylan Bell, people question it. People will. I understand. I completely understand. Brett Thorson, I think people understand now just how important this man is in this special teams room. Just really, really, really important. Then Cash Jones, it's a receiving threat out of the backfield. You need it. You need it. Then you got Dalen Everett. I think Dalen Everett, moving forward, I think Dalen Everett can be your kind of utilization. Like, get the same utilization as kind of like a Kamari Lassiter type. I'm not comparing him skill set wise. I'm just saying I think you can utilize him similar to what you saw with Kamari. And if that's the case, that's going to be fun. It's going to be real fun because you're gonna have to replace some guys on that back end. You know, you're losing Dan Jackson, you're losing Malachi Starks, like I said, right? You lost Julian Humphrey. You've lost some guys, right? You've lost some guys. Dalen Everett coming back is huge. Now the question is, if I'm looking at this, in my opinion, I need Ellis Robinson starting at cornerback too. I just do. And it's not a slack on anybody else. I just have that feeling that I think Ellis Robinson needs to be a starter next year because I don't want that dude going away from Georgia. Just don't want him to. Just don't want that to happen. But like I said, we had some guys returning. We also had some additions in the portal. And honestly, Kirby couldn't have done it any better than mere days after losing his dad, Sonny, goes out and gets commitments from Zion, defensive back Zion Branch and his brother Zachariah. First two portal additions, and they are a huge splash. Huge. It's interesting. But then, not to be outdone, you bring in Jaden Harris from Miami, Adrian Maddox from UAB, and Noah Thomas rounding it off. 3 portal additions in one day. And then you also bring in Dylan Bell's brother, Micah, from Vanderbilt. So in a mere days, Kirby and that coaching staff have addressed some serious positions of need. You look at 3 safety, you look at 3 defensive backs / safeties, and you're looking at 3 receivers. Tells me everything I need to know on what we looked like last year. We saw the issues. Kirby saw the issues. We moved to get it right there. Now, in my opinion, the biggest receiver addition, and this is going to be fun because they're all good. But if I had to say it, I'd just look at Noah Thomas. Noah Thomas brings a 6'6", 200-pound body with speed, can go up in high point catches, 50-50 catches, 50-50 balls. That is something that Georgia did not have, and it was obvious. It was inconsistent, and honestly, when you look at Colby Young and his impact, when he was out, the whole receiving core suffered. The whole offense suffered, really. But you cannot overlook Zachariah Branch. Zachariah Branch has the dynamic ability at any point, if used properly, get him the ball in space. He can take it to the house at any point. And yes, we've had Arian Smith with the speed. And yes, we've had Anthony Evans before he hit the portal. But I feel like Zachariah Branch is different. I just do. Might not have the size. I think he's like 5'10". But do not let that fool you with his twitch and his speed. You also bring in with Zachariah Branch the ability to be an elite punt returner, kick returner, return specialist too. The things that he did at USC as a freshman, from a returning standpoint, it's insane. It's stuff that Georgia hadn't seen, what felt like a little while, honestly. So when I look at this, I don't want him to become strictly a specialist in return. I want to utilize him. Honestly, I do. I feel like Georgia has to get this right with his utilization. You have to do that. If you do not, it sets a horrible precedent moving forward. It does. You watch his tape, he can take and make guys miss. Right? That's something else, especially with screen games. When we were doing screens, he would fit perfectly. You can make a guy miss. That was something that Georgia receivers in screen plays were having a hard time doing all year. Just not making a man miss and getting behind the six as a result. Zachariah Branch can make many guys miss at one shot. Seen it done. You have to be able to get him in space. You have to let him catch the ball. That is something else. He's fast, but he has better hands than what Arian Smith had. Arian Smith was very fast, but he was never a natural pass catcher. And I think Zachariah Branch is that. He can catch the ball. So, you have to do that. You have to get him in space. You've got to utilize this the right way. You just have to. But also, I think when you look at these additions, right, the stigma of Georgia not being aggressive in the NIL, I think has to be looked at differently now. It has to be done differently because you just beat you beat out Miami for Zachariah Branch, and Noah Thomas is not cheap either. Not cheap either. So if you're worried about that, you have to understand that Georgia's becoming more aggressive. And I think if I'm the booster and I saw the performance last year, I would be willing to put more money in it and say, listen, go get somebody that can catch the damn pass or catch a pass and go and use this money and fix it. Fix it now, period. It's insane to think that you can't do that. Henry says, nothing against Boba, but Cortez Smith has a golden opportunity to become a 4-year starter. I hope he does it. Cortez Smith is your center. Now the question is, honestly, I think Bobo could have played himself into a starting role because when he took over for Jared Wilson Henry, he actually played pretty well. So I'm not really opposed to it. I like Cortez. I like the trajectory. But it's the center position too. You gotta be on point to do it. We kind of got lucky with Cedric Van Pran too. Just a pure center, extremely high IQ for the football, in terms of football. And honestly, I'm not. If he did start for 4 years, awesome. Period. Awesome. I'm never going to be opposed to that. However, I think Drew Bobo might be your starter unless somebody pops in the portal that's just a no-brainer. I think you're starting Drew Bobo. I just think so. Not opposed to it though. But also when you look at the safety positions, it's interesting to see Jaden Harris and Adrian Maddox here. Both of those guys are from the state of Georgia. Both are from the state of Georgia. Let's start with Jaden Harris first. There's a lot of discussion about Jaden Harris, and people just don't like, if you watch his tape, there's some real bad miscues there. But to be fair, listening in and hearing things, you find out that he hasn't played the safety position for long at all. And so I look at that and I look at potential and understanding that Kirby and T-Rob and Coach Muschamp are the perfect blend of DB coaches to get him right. He's willing to go strike. He's not gonna blast you off the ball or anything like that. But he will come down. He will strike, and he'll try to he'll try to make the stop. So he's a willing tackler, and that's something that I want to see. Now, I'd like to see some Dawgs, but I'm not gonna discount effort and willingness to do things, because we've been caught and we've seen what happens when that effort is not there. So sign me up for somebody that's willing to go down and do the dirty work and strike and tackle. You need that. You do. So you have that situation right there. But Adrian Maddox is interesting. Adrian Maddox, 6'3", 200, I believe it is. Safety, long, and he's a thumper. He's a thumper. But he can also cover. So he's got a good blend. And I think Adrian Maddox could easily fight for a starting spot next year, aside from KJ Bolden. Now, to be fair, I think you look at a situation, and it makes me question, what happens with Jonel Aguero? I feel like Jonel is better suited to be a pure safety. He was playing the star a lot this year. People questioned it at first. As the season went on, he got healthy, looked a lot better, and I mean a lot better. But could you be in a situation where you have KJ and Jonel at safety, and then slide Adrian or Zion, or any one of the three really, into the star position? Or even crazier, could we see a situation where you have maybe you've got Dalen Everett at the star, and it opens up DeMello Jones and Ellis Robinson, and then you've got either one of the safeties, right? Adrian Maddox, it don't matter, take your pick, and KJ Bolden, or Jonel and KJ. There's a lot of questions that we've got to see moving forward once spring ball starts. It can get interesting, because there's some pairings, and I think you might see this in the spring too, because Georgia reps out practices so well. There's no wasted time. There's never a wasted rep at all. You are getting countless amounts of reps, more than most colleges, if not every college, honestly. And honestly, it would not surprise me to see all different kinds of pairings, really. Because you've had Malachi Starks there for 3 years, and he's gone. So, in that sense, what do you do? I think you just experiment. I mean, maybe you do keep Jonel there because he knows the system. He played well toward the end of the year when he's healthy. Maybe that's what you do. Or maybe you train some guys up too to play the star, right? Dalen Everett, I could see him taking an expanded role. Right? You want to be that cornerback one, I understand. But wouldn't it be cool to have him move around depending on who you're playing and where their position guys are? A la Kamari Lassiter, Luther Burden situation. It'd be pretty damn good. It'd make your defense feel a lot more daunting, Definitely would make them feel daunting. But either way, defensively, I'm excited for those three guys. Zion Branch, I feel like, is overrated, or excuse me, not overrated, underrated. Overlooked is what I was trying to say. But when you look at the Branch brothers as a whole, everybody focused on Zachariah, and rightfully so, because I guess he was coming out of high school as a 5-star plus receiver. He was good in his own right. He was a 4-star. He was a 4-star safety and DB. in his own right. So he's not terrible. Not terrible. So don't sleep on it. And don't sleep on Zion either. I think you're going to see all these portal additions come in and have to battle. You're going to have to battle for these spots. But I'm just ultimately glad that Kirby and that staff realized the issues that Georgia had this season and are going about attacking it very aggressively and to fix the issues. I don't think Georgia could afford another year to just sit back and just try to develop guys. You could tell in the receiving room there was hardly ever did you see the guy make his presence. Didn't have that. 50-50 balls or not 50-50 balls. Your percentage was not good. Couldn't create separation. Had drops. All these little problems caught up and reared their head. Even in the bowl game against Notre Dame, you saw it. Moving to 2025, you've got to get over that. And Kirby and the staff brought in enough. I wouldn't say enough. They brought in the right pieces to fix the issues. You've got Zachariah Branch, who can create space. Noah Thomas can do the same thing. Noah Thomas can run vertically and catch 50-50 balls. Noah Thomas can do a lot of things that Georgia struggled with. Common denominator. The receivers that you pick up, even Micah Bell, they can catch the ball. They can catch the ball. So I don't want to hear this. If we have the same issues pop up in 2025, guys, I think we know where the problem is. And sometimes that's uncomfortable to sit there and talk about. But if it happens again, I think we have to know that it happened. There's no such thing as coincidences, really, is there? Keep that in mind. But also, when we look at the guys, I want to kind of touch back on all the guys going to the NFL draft, right? There's a lot. There's probably 15 to 20. Do I think – I'm going to do it way too early. I think we've got enough to break 15, the number. I think we got more than 15 draft-eligible players. I still think the 15 players drafted sticks. I do. I don't see this class breaking the 15. But if it does, we'll have to talk about that, though, won't we? That's my way too early prediction on that. I think there's some really good players, and you're going to have a few handful of guys going first round. But I think there's some gaps there. And makes me wonder if Georgia could get to the 15 threshold again, 15 number. I don't know if they do. But I think you're going to see a lot of guys going from Georgia and going to play on rosters. We saw that last year too. A lot of guys going undrafted, but making impacts, right? Making impacts, going from, just seeing how things go there. But yeah, so congratulations to the guys that declared. Thank you for everything you've done to the university, everything you've done for it. We look at these guys, most of these guys, these seniors, it's crazy to think you go out with two national championships, 2 SEC championships, winning his class in school history, winning a senior class, never lost at home. It's crazy. It's absolutely crazy. So you have all those guys leaving. Obviously, we wish the guys well that are hit the portal. It's going to be interesting too. We talked about them, but I'm curious to see where Damon Wilson is. I think, a lot of media is looking at Ohio State for this one, and I understand why, because it was a big deal out of high school. Ultimately, that's where I think he goes. That's where I think he lands too. Did recently visit Missouri though, so we'll see what that means if it I don't think it materializes too much, but nonetheless, it's just interesting to see those guys. See where he goes really. Sounds like they were trying to find a better scheme fit. I get it. If you can sit there and go somewhere where you can put your hand in the dirt and rush the passer all the time, it would make sense. You're asked to do a lot for Georgia here. So if that's what he wants to do, I get it. I can't. I'm not going to be too mad at it. I do wish looking at Jaden Rashada, the writing was on the wall at times, but I do wish he would have stuck it out a little bit and had a full spring of install. But I honestly understand why, because I think the writing was on the wall when Kirby was talking in the SEC title game and was going to bring Pug in before Carson came in to hand off the ball. I think that kind of told me where I needed to know. But I do think it would have been nice for him to come in the spring, get the full install, because he didn't have that opportunity last year because he came in the summer. So it would have been nice to see what a full spring could do. But I also understand the fact that you got to make these decisions. You got to find a place. You got to start getting into this room, obviously, before get ready for fall camp or spring ball, and try to find a place to play. I mean, went from Arizona State, had some good moments there. Yeah, obviously didn't get to see the field really with Georgia. But at the same time, I don't see an issue with him coming in and playing. I think he can go somewhere where they need a quarterback and you can go in there and go play and win some ball games, right? Maybe I'm not saying it happens, but what about Syracuse? Syracuse just lost Kyle McCord. That could be a possibility. I'm not saying it will, but you never know. I mean, Fran Brown loves some Georgia players, so maybe that is something you got to pay in mind or keep in mind, all right? You're looking at guys like Ra Thomas, the whole situation there. I don't know if anything really materializes with that. Just don't know. Anthony Evans, haven't really heard much. Colin Gill, transfer from Oregon. Haven't heard much there either. Michael Jackson, not much out of that either. Some of these guys, you just wish them the best and hope that they come in and do the things they need to do to get to their next destination. You just hope that they don't get left in this little black hole, if you will. I just don't want to see that. Obviously I want to get on the field and play. It'll be interesting to see how, if you're familiar, you've listened to the show long enough, you know that I was a huge Jamal Jarrett guy. It'll be interesting to see what Southern Cal, how that looks, right? How that's looking. Him, Keyshawn Silver, Jakeem Stewart, poised to be a really big physical defensive front there. So we'll see what that looks like. Reserve your hate comments in regards to USC. I understand. I get it. But it's not like they're not trying. So we'll see. But yeah, we'll end it off on the additions and the returns. Again, Trevor Etienne, big deal. Brett Thorson, even bigger. I think special teams gets overlooked until it bites you in the ass. Can't let that happen. Kristen Miller, Percy coming back. I expect him to be the guy on that defensive front. And honestly, I think you need him to be that guy, be that leader, maybe even leader of the defense. We'll see what that looks like. Nonetheless, though, huge return, very big return. I don't think it's hard. It's hard to quantify that. He's that important for this defense, especially losing Stackhouse and Brinson. You needed some veteran play there at TID as well. Losing Michael, losing Chaz Chambliss, more likely. All these guys all along the defensive front. It'll be nice to have him come in and be that leader on the defensive front. So, obviously there. And then obviously, like I said, the Branch brothers. I'm extremely excited for that. Noah Thomas can't wait to get in the lab, whatever quarterback we roll with. I'm telling you, man, I thought Gunner looked real good vertically against Notre Dame. I was surprised myself to see some of the passes that he was completing, and there were some tight windows. They really were. But if you give me, if whether it be Gunner, Ryan Puglisi, somebody else, who knows, just give me those weapons and use it the right way. If you use them the right way, the sky is the limit for Georgia. But I still am going to hold hesitations. I just don't know if I have my reservations on the coordinating. I have my reservations on offensive line play. And it just concerns me at this point in time. I know there's a lot to go on. And I know that it's still early in the offseason. You got a whole nother window. You've got all the spring ball. Then you got months to go before we see the first 2025 product on the field. As Jay Shicey in the building. What's going on, Jay? Cheers here. It's a cold winter night, man. I got snow on the ground. Did anybody get snow? I'm sure you did. If you're in Georgia, you got snow. Unless you're in South Georgia, you probably got some rain. Them down South Georgia boys, they don't really get a lot of snow. So I know Atlanta got hit with a lot. Up in North Carolina, though, we got us some snow and some sleet. Good game. I'm assuming, which game are you talking about, Jay? But yeah, while Jay responds to that, I'm looking forward to seeing these weapons. But I'm cautiously optimistic about this. I got carried away. Got carried away with the receivers that we had, Dominic and Ra and those guys. Because it just didn't materialize the way you expected it. All right, Ra gets the off the foot issues. There you go. Colby Young so far thought he did all right. Issues. Boom. There you go. It's just something, and if everybody had that, I felt like didn't live up to expectations with Dom Lovett. Obviously, he's declared for the draft. We need these guys to hit. We need them to hit. So that's just my thoughts. I'm excited. I'm glad that, like I said, I am glad that Kirby and the staff saw the issues and addressed them aggressively. I just want to see it happen on the field now. But we have to wait for that. we have to wait for that. Jay Shicey saying he thought Bell would be more clutch. Yeah. Bell had a very down year in comparison to what we expected before the season, especially here too. Him returning, it'll be interesting. I think you got to fix the drops. A lot of that stuff is mental. More reps with the quarterbacks is going to happen. You got to have that happen. And then, right, just break the mental funk. Right, it seemed like everybody in the receiving room had that mental block right there and was struggling with drops. And we didn't rotate as much either, by the way. If y'all keep in mind, folks, we didn't rotate receivers like we did, and I think that's a testament to Kirby not feeling comfortable with the guys that we had in that room. Because we really played a lot of 3 or 4 receivers. That was it. Yeah. So OG Benny Frank saying no snow but some rain and ice. Yeah, sounds about right. Yeah, still got snow-covered grass. There you go, Jay. I think I don't know. It's supposed to be still going on. I have to find out later after the show and see what the aftermath looks like. But yeah, nonetheless, though, I'm excited for these guys to come in, these portal additions. But I just need to see it. Just need to see it. I'm not trying to get all caught away in the hype and then it not work out. OG says we have some incoming freshman receivers who will help out game 1. Talon Taylor, Terrence Edwards made a social media post tonight, actually. And, yeah, seems like the future's bright for him. And you still got C.J. Wiley. All 5 of the receivers that you got in this freshman class, this 2025 class, all can play a role. Now, the question is to what extent? Don't know. But either way, I think those guys have a good niche. And that sometimes really helps too, because you don't need everybody to do everything. Jay brings up another good point here. How do you lead the country in drops and not put Nitro in sooner? Jay, to be honest with you, part of me wonders if it's just something what he's seen in practice, maybe not just maybe not ready, but at the same time, you have to balance that line. Because, Arian was dropping passes, but keep in mind, Arian was saving Georgia's ass more than people really want to pay attention to and realize and give him credit for. Because for every, maybe for every 2 or 3 drops that he had, he also made a play on the ball to save our ass from a fumble. He would recover the fumble, or he'd be there and make a play. You see what I'm saying? You can drop, like, you understand drops are never what you want to see on the field. I get that. But there's a reason why Aaron was on the field. Dominic and, these other guys, I get your point. I do. And really, I was excited to see Nitro because I thought he had a really good release, especially against Tennessee. I remember there was one route that he ran that was a little bit overthrown. But he just made the Tennessee defender just look silly for a second. I was like, okay, there's potential there. There's potential there. And I think, keeping him back from going to the portal and bringing him back, I feel like you need to get him involved. I really do. Get him involved. Find a way. Kobe White's another one. You've got receivers. Now that these guys are gone and whatever, there shouldn't be any reason to not see better production. I mean, the production wasn't as bad as people thought, really. You just had a lot of drops and drop yards. If you mitigate those drops, we're looking at this completely different, folks. We really are. We really are. So I think that's something you got to keep in mind too. And if you're able to mitigate the drops and really create separation, make it easier for the quarterbacks and the receivers. And if you can create space, your life is becoming way easier, especially as a quarterback. Jay Shicey says, our running backs were straight butterfingers. Wouldn't have been upset if ETN left to see potential fracture. Honestly, I'm okay with it. You've got a heavy room at running back right now. Nobody's left yet. I think you're probably going to see somebody leave after the spring portion once you really get a feel for where the running backs are on the depth chart, right? Where you fit in the pecking order. I mean, you got Cash Jones coming back. That's a big deal. ETN coming back. That's a big deal. And then you still got Nate Frazier, Broderick and Branson. Dwight Phillips is getting to try to find a way to get him the ball too. It's in space. Chauncey Bowens. So you're heavy running back right now. Heavy in the running backs. You're gonna have to. It's gonna be hard to balance that out. It really will. And the writing will probably be on the wall. And I'm not gonna put nobody in the portal before they do it themselves. But it would not surprise me if one or maybe two even hit the portal. It's just too many bodies in that running back room. Unless you convert somebody to a different position, which I don't see that happening really like that. But other than that, though, folks, that's all we've got for tonight. I wanted to talk about the portal additions. I wanted to talk about the draft declarations. Keep in mind, with it being no Georgia football, we're slowing things down a little bit. I've said it last episode. We're slowing it down. So we'll probably see once a week. We'll try to do that and talk about anything and everything in between on these episodes during the season. If you have any suggestions for people that you might think you would want to hear, special guests potentially, drop it in these comments, and we'll see what we can do with that. Last comment of the night: incoming freshman Maurice Gleaton is faster than Arian Smith. He's going to be real deep for that. Yeah, he's that track. He's that track guy though, right? If I'm not mistaken, he's the guy that committed to the track. Or I know he's a track guy. I just get concerned about the track guys, man. It's just, you like the speed, but at the same time, like, how is the progression or how is the track record for track guys turned football players? How does that look for us? There's my issue. You see what I'm saying? But now Maurice Gleaton going on the track, like, Georgia track loaded up on some fucking crazy ass people, man. I know they got Leazar Brown too up here out of Dudley I would assume for hurdles and stuff too. Yeah, that kid's freaky at running hurdles, man. 110 hurdles. But other than that though, just looking at the situation, it's going to be interesting. Like I said, for show purposes, slowing it back down once a week. Try to cover anything and everything that we find, throughout that week or whatever. Same time, try to be the same time. Obviously, we kind of made an exception here. Wanted to sit there and watch the Cotton Bowl. So now you get a Notre Dame, Ohio State national title game. So that's going to be a burner in Atlanta. Didn't have that on the bingo card, but whatever. But other than that, we hope you have a great morning, rest of the afternoon, however you're watching this. Stick around for the next episode, folks. We'll catch y'all next time. And go Dawgs.